So, hello, welcome back to the channel. I'm Andrew, one half of Yaz and Andrew, and today I sort of just wanted to talk about sort of stealth camping and sort of how to do that, some tips and tricks, and what not to do in 2025 with van life and living out of, campers full time is becoming a lot more popular. So it's obviously become way more noticeable than back in like 2015, 10 years ago when people were doing this. So these are gonna be some tips and tricks of how to avoid the knock, especially like I said in 2025 where it's starting to get harder to get away with it and to blend in. So to start off, there's a couple different camping options. There's obviously like established campgrounds, national parks, provincial parks, sort of like that. There's obviously a little bit more like wild camping, like on Crown land in Canada or BLM land in the US, where you're allowed to camp there for 14 days at a time before you have to leave. And then when you're doing that, you're able to open the doors, have all your chairs out, really kind of normal camp, have your fire type of thing. And then there's like some other wild camping, like if you go down to Baja, like you can pretty much just go onto like any beach and just stay there, like that's not a problem at all. And then lastly, there's stealth camping. So there's either you can some Walmarts or Cracker Barrels in the US will allow you to stay for like a night or so in their parking lot, but like you don't really, when you're doing that, you kind of just want to blend in. Like you don't want to be having your chairs out or doors open, and it's like you see that happen sometimes too. Like if we've stayed at multiple Walmarts and you'll see people like pulling out their camping chairs and everything, and I just feel like those are the reasons why you start to see places like that not allow overnight camping anymore for obvious reasons. And another thing is that when you're stealth camping, like you kind of want to try avoiding, I would say, residential areas now. Like I feel like it's so obvious when you see like a Sprinter van, even with like even if you don't have like ladder racks or awnings or anything like that. Like in these times, like since it's so popular now, like it just has like those sort of side windows, like it's so obvious that it's a camper van. So usually if you have to stay in sort of more like a city area, if you're working full time, which I am right now, and this is like the third city, I guess, Victoria is where we are right now, that I've worked in. Like we were in Calgary and Banff and Canmore, and now here working. So we've done this in a couple different places now, and we've never got the knock. So these are sort of our tips of what we like to do to avoid that and how to help everybody else. So first things first is, I would say number one most important thing is where you are gonna sleep for that night. That's it. That's all you're gonna do there. Like make sure when you arrive, like you don't need to get out of your vehicle. So essentially, so like a typical day if I'm working would be like, so I park where we park for work, I finish work, drive to the gym, have a shower, and then we usually drive down to the waterfront. And the waterfront, you can kind of just park there all day. Like there's no rules. Like if you're here on the weekend, you can just sort of hang out there all day. That's pretty much fine. It's pretty much, you can stay there till it's dark, really. There's no signs, but that's kind of what we do. And then we make sure to take, we have two dogs, Milo and Juno, if people that don't know. So we take them out before we get to our spot where we want to sleep. So everything we have to do outside the van, excuse me, if you want to go for like a walk, take the dogs out, we do that before we even arrive. So then after that, we pack up, we end up kind of going to, I would say, like kind of more like a carpool lot where you'll see other cars there for longer periods of time. So you just like to sort of just blend in to that, really. So every night we just kind of go to a carpool lot. We don't get out of the van, get there around like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night when it starts to get a little bit darker. And then by a little after 5 a.m. in the morning, we are leaving. So like I can get to work the next day. We kind of leave earlier, and that's like probably the best way to avoid having the knock, is that you just have certain spots that you kind of keep going and circling around. Like you don't want to be staying in one spot for a long period of time, especially in a residential area, because nothing will get you caught faster than overstaying your welcome in a residential area and having the locals recognize your van or see your van all the time. They're gonna not want to see that, so they're gonna complain to the city, then the city's gonna get involved, and that's already even happening right now, sort of like in the like Langford, sort of around Victoria, there's this street it's like a residential street. It's a busier street, but one side of the street is all like apartments and condos, and then a few houses further down, and then the other side is just like a fence that like backs onto a golf course. And all along that road for like months, like we've been here for like over 4 months now, there's just so many campers and trailers just parked along the entire road. Like it's like at least a kilometer, I would say, of just all these campers. And I remember thinking, like, how has like no one complained? Because it looks honestly a little ridiculous. And now you're starting to see news articles, because I guess everyone got like a notice on their windshield that, you know, they have to leave by this day, because now it's going to be, you know, not allowed to park overnight there. And that's exactly the type of stuff that happens when you start to overstay your welcome. So if you want to avoid that, don't want to piss off the residents, because that's, like I said, the quickest way to get caught. So the best thing to do is essentially have a couple different spots where you can kind of move around during the day, and that's going to be your best way to not get caught. Because sort of the same thing when we were in Calgary and I was working, again, it was like you'd see this news article come out because there are all these campers and, you know, trailers or whatever parked along this road for just months at a time. Like that, it just seems like that's the trend. It's like you just can't just stay put with your camper for like an extended period of time in like a residential city type of area. And when we were in Calgary, what we were doing, of like, instead of here, how we've been going to a carpool a lot, like the work, like my work sort of parking lot area in Calgary was on this like kind of more industrial spot, and along the road there was always, every night during the day, like all night during the day, you'd see all these different work vans, same sort of model as our camper. You'd see a bunch of 18-wheelers parked all along the road during the day and at night. So it was like super easy to blend in, because it's a industrial area, and there's a bunch of different sort of similar looking vehicles parked on the road. So that's super easy, and I think that's why we haven't got the knock, is because we don't like to stay in residential areas. Like I've been saying, quickest way to get caught is to piss off the locals. So don't do that. And that goes along with the same when you're at a Walmart, or especially if you're in a residential area. Like, do not dump your gray water like just out there. Like that's another way like you're just gonna get caught and ruin it for everybody else. Like, so like essentially what we do is that usually during the week we like our van is self-contained, so during the week we stay around this area, but then on weekends we head to sort of more kind of established campgrounds, I would say, or even if we're not staying there, you can go use their dump station. So like once a week we go there, and that's where we'll like dump our gray water and stuff for the weekend. That's sort of the routine we kind of get in, so stay as stealth as possible. And like I said, especially in 2025, where it's starting to become way more popular, you really got to go that extra distance to make sure you stay stealth and don't necessarily ruin it for the rest of us. Because even in the carpool lot where we were staying last night, there was this like SUV, and there's like this couple, and they're sitting on their lawn chairs with their like their SUV trunk popped up, and they're like, I think they're like cooking or something like that. And it's like, man, like that is the stuff that's gonna get everyone else caught and just not be allowed to use those areas anymore. So we want to try avoid that, and to, you know, kind of be respectful of where you're staying. Like, you don't want to overstay your welcome, and you don't want to be making it so obvious that you're camping there. And I think that's just sort of our tips and tricks. And like I said, we've been doing this for a while now. We've been living out of the van for like a year and a half. Half the time was just traveling around, and the other half has been sort of working in more stationary areas in different parts of the country. So yeah, I think, and like I said, we haven't got the knock, so I think we have some pretty good tips and tricks for people out there that are living out of their vans and have to stay in a more, you know, city residential type area for whatever reason. If you use these tips that we use, you should be able to avoid the knock just like us. So I think we're just gonna leave it off here, and thanks for watching. See you guys in the next video.